Those are for after?
It's so nice for us because we can just put on like a sweater. Poor guys have to wear like heavy suit jackets.
Yeah.
And look nice. Is there a dress code here that people still have to wear nylons? Oh no, when I first started teaching, we had to, like at the public school, and that was 15 years ago. Well, they never fit me because I'm so tall and skinny legs. And so tall, they make for like people that are not, I'm like tall, but I'm not 6 feet. I'm 5'9" and a half. So they make the tall for like 6 feet. So then they fall in the ankles. And then the smaller ones, if they're not tall,
I think Vince was going to pull,
Yes, the,
or maybe Cindy.
The
Cindy,
demo.
Cindy, why don't you pull the item on the consent calendar for the water preservation update? Number I. Yeah, because that was really so. Don
supposed to be a
didn't
new
really-
business so we
he
could
wanted to put
tell
on
the
new
public what we're doing.
business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
Vincent?
Tell me one more. Big one.
Vince, we're going to pull item off the consent calendar? We're going to pull an item off
The
the
demo.
consent calendar? Demo?
Yeah, the demo.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay. Carl's not going to be here, so.
okay. I kind of like the one on the water.
We're just talking about that. We're going to pull that
It'd be
off.
nice if you.
Yeah.
I should. Yeah, that was.
I did it all my.
Yeah, I saw that. I go, that's a senior moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was great. Yeah. Yeah, we stayed at the island.
Yeah. Just take one. I like all those. That's okay. You know,
It was, thank you.
Right, Piggy?
for him it's pepper.
Council, August 19th, 2014, to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Sternquist,
Present.
Councilmember Viscara,
Here.
Councilmember Yu,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Here.
Mayor Bloom is absent.
We have a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, want to move to excuse Mayor Bloom for cause?
Second.
Okay. Moved in second. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion carries. Carl's a little bit under the weather, so I know you'll join with me to hope for a speedy recovery. He should be back in the saddle very soon. So you've got the understudy tonight, so we'll try to get through this. Okay, we'll begin, as we always do, with our invocation. I'm very pleased tonight to welcome Pastor Andy Keckert from the Sunrise Community Church. Pastor Keckert, of course, has been here many times, and we welcome him back. The Sunrise Community Church is located at 9642 East Live Oak Avenue. Andy has been an elder since 1997 at Sunrise. He was elevated to teaching elder or pastor in 2001. He is the solo pastor there, however, he serves with two other elders. Sunrise Community Church shares their facility with the Westminster Presbyterian. Services are in English, and they are a non-denominational Christian church. So, Pastor Keckert, welcome, and if everybody will please stand for our invocation.
Gracious Father, we ask this evening that you would bestow this council with wisdom. Lord, there are decisions that need to be made and proposals that must be considered. Each one of them weighs on the community. And so, Father, we ask that you would give them discernment and wisdom, that they would rule in a way that is honoring to you, but also is that of a servant of the people who have elected them. Father, we ask also for our mayor, Mayor Bloom, that you would bring healing to him and that you would speed his recovery, that he would once again be able to partake in his role in this body, and that his wisdom and guidance would be furthered by that of the rest of this council. And Father, we ask this in the name of our Savior, who gives graciously. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now, you'll all remain standing, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, presentations. There are none. Item number 6, public comments. City Council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. The procedure to address the City Council is highlighted on the first page of this agenda. So we have a couple of speaker request forms. First of all, Jing Lee from our library.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jing Li. I'm the president Temple City Library, and I'm very happy to announce effective Tuesday, September 2nd, Temple City Library will have their service hours restored back to the 2009-2010 level. So that means we're going to open one extra day. So we're going to Monday, the library is going to open. So the new hour will be Monday. We're going to open from 10 to 6. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're open from 10 to 8. Thursday, we're open from 12 to 8. And Friday, we're going to open 12 to 5. Saturday, we're open from 10 to 5. And Sunday, we're closed. And I want to talk about some upcoming programs in September. And the first big program we have is Saturday, the 6th, from 11 to 1:30. We're going to have Moon Festival celebration. And we have martial art performance. And then we also have a slow-y mooncake making demonstration. We end with art activities. And our friends of the library is going to have presentation is called How to Install Micro Drip Irrigation System. That's going to be on Thursday, 11 from 6:30 to 7. And also, we have 2 new programs next month. We are partnered with Asher American Advanced Justice Los Angeles. They're going to offer free citizenship class. And also, they're going to offer free housing law clinic. So the first and third Friday, they're going to come to a library. And if you have any questions regarding, tenant right, landlord and down payment, anything regarding the housing, and they have attorney available to answer your question. And also, they provide Mandarin and Cantonese translation as well. And starting September 8th, we are going to offer teen conversational English class. It's total, the whole series is going to be 6 classes. So you come to the library every Monday at 3:30, and we have volunteers that are going to talk to the teens about current events and read the magazine or newspaper or poetry, music, just to practice your English skills. And we also have another workshop is called Pathway to Medical School. That's Saturday, September 13th from 10 to 12. So if you have a teen interested in studying medicine, just join us for this workshop and learn information about the medical school application process, GPA, and extra curriculum activities, as well as the daily life of medical students. And all this information you can find on our website, which is going to be www.colapublib.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lai. Any questions? I guess not. So we'll move on. Next speaker, we've got Peter Choi from the Temple City Chamber of Commerce. Peter?
Yes, good evening. I'm Peter Choi, President of the Temple City Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to follow up an agenda item from the last City Council meeting where I was not able to be present. So I want to thank, on behalf of the Chamber, thank the City Council and the City for their funding again this year of the Chamber's activities and to fulfill our mission on behalf of the small business community. I understand there was a little noise. Where is that guy? Why isn't he here? So I appreciate Mr. Penman's clarification that the city did know I was not available. For the record, let me know, I did clear the first and third Tuesday of June and the first and third Tuesday of July, which was a little inconvenient for me. And as much as I enjoy being on my couch with my wife watching Orange is the New Black, I do like to be here. I take it seriously. Unfortunately, my schedule was scheduled that way. I was out of town attending a Western Association of Chamber Executives. Most importantly, the event had been paid for. And it was scheduled and it was important. So that's why I was not here. It does not mean that I do not take it seriously, as many people know. I'd like to also thank the city council members who were able to join us at our 90th anniversary gala this past Saturday. It was a spectacular affair. The chamber is 90 years old. What it was, by the way, was a culmination of the past 2 years of rebooting this chamber. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Yu, that you were not able to attend, but those that were, I think were a little surprised by the turnout, by the crowd, the energy, which was all fantastic. But again, what you saw on Saturday was the culmination of the efforts we have taken to reboot this chamber away from a chamber of social parties that's involved in many community events to a chamber of commerce that is engaged more specifically in business events. We have had a lot of opposition. I have not been happy about it. I have not been vocal about it. But when I watched the recordings of the last City Council meeting, it brought it back, and I have to say, there has been resistance to the chamber because there are many people who wanted the chamber to remain a community organization, to be at community events for football team things and high school things and social things. What we are doing this year, just so the city knows, certainly our new board knows, is that we have impressed on the board of directors that they are the ambassadors for the chamber. And this is something that they can take on, to represent the chamber, that when they are out and about, to speak well of the chamber and to send that message out. This is something that we'll be working on in this, my third year here. That is the next step. But certainly, the 90th anniversary gala was a great marker. It represents not just the totality of our history in the past, but also where we are. There was a new energy, a lot of new faces, and we're going to be building on that as we go forward. So thank you again. I must say very quickly that I think there was a question how the Chamber could be 90 years old when the city was founded in 1960. But the city was founded by Walter Temple in 1923. It was actually called the town of Walter Temple, just known as Temple. And then a few years later, of course, the city business leaders founded the Chamber 1 year later. And then 2 years later, the Postmaster General asked the town of Temple to change their name because the mail was being directed to the city of Tempe in Arizona. So they changed it to this Temple City. And then when the city was incorporated in 1960, it became the somewhat redundantly named City of Temple City, which we live and enjoy in today. I got that question a lot from people. But let me bring it back to say the Chamber takes this funding seriously. And I, as the executive director of this Chamber, take it very, very darn seriously. That is why I have not allowed those who have been against the Chamber moving away from being a community organization to being a business organization. I appreciate what Mr. Vizcarra said. He said, look, well, first he said that the Chamber's events have been better and attended by better quality people, so I appreciate that. Certainly that was true.
I
But
didn't
also,
say quality people.
didn't you say that?
Something like that.
Something like that. Don't hold me. I am just paraphrasing.
All right.
But Mr. Vizcarra, the council members, also said, look, I don't really know what a chamber does, so I'm not necessarily in the position to say that. What I will say is I do know what a chamber does. I do know what our mission is. And I appreciate that our interim city manager, Mr. Penman, said, look, this is a regular contract from his experience with cities, his experience with chambers, pretty much covers what chambers do. And that is true. We look forward to the meeting in September with the city. We look forward to clarifying that. I can speak a little more openly when I'm not on TV. But again, thank you very much for the funding. We take every dollar seriously. We spend it very carefully. And that is where this event, normally we take a committee of 20. We did not have that, but it played very well. So again, thank you very much on behalf of the board, on behalf of our organization, on behalf of our 250 plus members and growing. There are new businesses. By the way, Cal's Lock and Key is no longer there. Now it's Lock and Fix. Stop by there and say hello to him. There's a new hardware store by PhD Salon. Stop by and talk to them. If you need to get your keys made, 2 new places to do that. We're always engaging with them. It's not visible here. It's not visible here, but it's visible to us. Finally, I would like to say on behalf of the business community, thank you very much to Mr. Penman. I will tell you that everyone I know who has engaged with Mr. Penman has had a favorable review. Some people seem to be bummed that he is not our permanent city manager, but I am sure that under his efforts, whoever is next will be fantastic. So thank you, Don. You've been great. My interaction with you has been very limited, but it has been very positive. So thank you, Don. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you to the City Council.
Did you say there was a hardware store?
Yes, there is. Next to PhD Salon, kind of right across from the old Casa del Rey. It's brand new, just opened.
I hadn't even seen it.
I didn't even know myself.
Is it a mom and pop thing?
Basically, yes. The kind of place you go when you don't want to roam the aisles of Home
Yeah,
Depot
yeah.
and leave with 10 more things than you came for.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we too look forward to that meeting in September. I think it'll go a long ways to clarifying the roles of the city and the chamber. So
Absolutely.
I think it'll be worthwhile.
We're
Thank you.
partners and we're going to continue to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other public comments? If not, I will close public comments, and we will now move on to item number 7, the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended, unless removed for further discussion. If members of the city council or persons in the audience wish to discuss any matters listed on the consent calendar, please address them at this time. However, before we move on with that, I know our city clerk has a correction to make regarding an item on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. I'd like to make a correction to the meeting minutes for the City Council regular meeting of August 5th. On page 10, under Standing Committee and Ad Hoc, item 13A and E.
Need to move your
We can't hear
we
you.
can't hear you.
I'm sorry, the upcoming Standing Committee date should be in August, not September.
Okay, So we're just changing the typo, one. Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Okay, do we have any items?
I'd like to pull I.
Item I? Okay, item I.
Want to pull item J?
Item J. Okay, so, J. All right, anything else? Do we have a motion then besides those?
I move that we approve the remainder of the.
Second.
Okay, any objection?
Whatchamacallit?
Hearing none, those items will be approved, so we'll start with item I.
Yeah, the only reason I pulled it is I don't understand it.
Well, I think, actually, in speaking with our interim city manager, we're going to have a report on that. So maybe once he gives that, we'll all understand it a little more clear. So why don't we go ahead and proceed with, if that's okay with you? Or do you have any specific questions you want to bring
Well,
up?
no, that was it. It kind of didn't go anyplace when I read it, so I
Okay. All
wanted
right.
to see what it was all about.
All right, so, Mr.
Well,
Penman?
let me first begin by apologizing. I really had meant to put this under new business because the whole point of the report is to inform the council and the community about some of the programs that are going on in the community relative to water conservation, enforcement efforts. There's been a lot of media attention in some communities about enforcement. So we gathered information we thought would be helpful to present it at the council meeting, so not just the council, but the community would be aware of it as well. So I'm going to briefly touch on a few things tonight, just information regarding conservation programs, enforcement of State Water Resources Control Board emergency conservation regulations, and city property maintenance regulations. First, Temple City is a bit unique in the sense that we actually have 5 different water purveyors here in our community, 4 of which are private and 1 public. And in researching the programs offered by these various companies, 4 of the 5 companies refer their customers for incentives to the Metropolitan Water District, which is the regional water wholesaler. This map, which the colors probably don't do justice for, shows the boundaries of the various water companies that serve our community. So that does present a few extra challenges for us as a public agency in order to work with all these water companies to try to assist them with any public information programs they have and incentives. But as I mentioned, 4 of the 5 companies do not have their own incentives but refer customers to the incentives being offered by the Metropolitan Water District. California American Water, in addition to referring customers to MWD, they also offer rebates for high-efficiency dishwashers and clothes dryers and free ultra-high-efficiency toilets. So the Metropolitan Water District is probably taking the lead in terms of our region in terms of offering incentives. They offer incentives for things such as rebates for turf removal and a number of other efficient landscape products. They also offer rebates for energy-efficient appliances and plumbing fixtures. And there's a whole array of things where you can get rebates through them. And residents should just Google Metropolitan Water District, and it'll point you in the right direction to the different incentive programs they have. We're also served in the maze of water purveyors by the Upper San Gabriel Municipal Water District, also known as the Upper District, which is really a water wholesaler, and they offer programs primarily geared towards the retailers. But one of the programs they offer, which they presented to you, I think at your last meeting, was the Water Smart Challenge program, where cities in their service area can compete for a $50,000 grant if you can meet 8 of the 12 criteria that they've established. Or be one of the first 3 cities that can meet 8 of the 12 criteria. The challenge for us probably will be one of the mandatory criteria is the cities where the greatest amount of rebates have been offered. And since, of course, we're not a water retailer, we'll have to work with our water companies to find out those amounts and try to publicize that program. But that's one of the factors. But I think the more important point in that is that just creating public awareness of the overall program. Now, there's been a lot discussed as of late with what regulations apply and who enforces them. And I think most of us, at least if we've glanced at the newspaper recently, have seen that the State Water Resources Control Board issued some emergency regulations that prohibit certain types of water uses. And there are, I believe, 4 or 5. They prohibit the application of potable water to any driveway or sidewalk. They prohibit using potable water to water outdoor landscapes in a manner that causes runoff to adjacent property, non-irrigated areas, private and public walkways, roadways, parking lots, or structures. You're required to use a hose that dispenses potable water to wash vehicles. You're not allowed to use a hose that dispenses potable water to wash a motor vehicle unless it actually is fitted with a shutoff nozzle, and you can't use potable water or a fountain or decorative water feature unless the water is recirculated. So those are the things that the state is prohibiting, which, quite frankly, are pretty common sense things that most people probably are not doing anymore anyway. But they've also established fines of up to $500 for people that violate those regulations. Now, the interesting element here is that the private water companies have no authority to issue fines under the law. So any fines that would be issued would have to be issued by the city. And cities can adopt their own schedule, their own program. It could involve warnings initially, and it could be fines that perhaps start lower and could be up to $500. But the point of it is that the private water companies, the four water companies, have no authority under the law to even issue fines. So that therefore, it's incumbent on the city to meet with those companies and find out what kind of programs, how they're, if they are able to identify, for example, water wasters, and we can work with them on that. So before we would go about attempting any fines or to issue any fines, I think we'd want to meet with all the water companies and have a dialogue with them about the programs. They do have other things they can do other than fines. For example, they can reduce the amount of water. They could actually shut people off that waste water, but they cannot issue fines. So, but one of the key things that I think people are very interested in is what will the city do? And I think we all saw the example in the media that occurred in Glendora that received a lot of media attention, where the city actually cited an individual. Unfortunately, the story was not reported accurately. It's my understanding that in that particular case, the property owner who let all their landscaping die had been in a code enforcement situation with the city for a few years. And so, unfortunately, it was tied to look as if they just stopped maintaining their landscaping because of the drought, but it had been an ongoing issue. So in working with our code services staff, and the Temple City Municipal Code Section 4-4C2 prohibits dead, decayed, disease or hazardous vegetation and of lack of landscaping or other ground cover in areas where landscaping is required by the zoning code. But of course, I think we have to recognize we're in a drought situation, and people need to do everything they can to try to reduce the water usage. And the majority of water used typically goes into the landscape. So we can do a lot of things inside, but that's not going to have as significant impact as it is if you can cut your water use outside. So from a property maintenance code enforcement standpoint, the city's position is that we recognize that some browning of the landscape and lawns is going to occur. I think in today's world, that's going to happen. However, we do not believe that just simply that dead vegetation is acceptable unless someone can demonstrate that they're in the process of re-landscaping their yard and they have a plan that they can show us. But simply letting all your landscape die, we would still view that as a violation of the code unless they can tell some of the reason that justifies that. As I say, perhaps that they're going to do a water drought-tolerant planting plan or something. So, and of course, even when we do identify people who we feel like might be in violation of the code, our first approach would always be to try to work with them, identify the problem, make sure they're aware of what the alternatives are. We can refer them to web pages offered by a lot of nonprofit and public agencies that can suggest different types of landscape materials that are more drought tolerant. And we're starting to see more of that in the community. So that's the position we plan on taking, except the fact that everything's not going to be real green at this point in time with the water situation, but at the same time not accept that people are just going to let all their landscape die. Now, if the drought continues into the next year, then it could be a different situation, because what's occurring is, my understanding is, the private water companies, I think the community is fortunate that most of the water that they get is very reasonably priced because it comes from the underground basins and aquifers, and that's a lot less expensive to provide than if we had to pay for imported water through the Metropolitan Water District or the state, the state water project. But if the drought continues, more and more water will have to be purchased, and that will make it much more expensive, and then there'll be also further restrictions on the amount of water that people can use. So for now, that's our plan. We want to meet with the water agencies, have an ongoing dialogue about what issues they're facing. We have a terrific vehicle through our communications program with Connect and the webpage to serve, to communicate to the whole community about programs and things they could be doing. And then, being understanding with the community members who are having some difficulty keeping their landscape perhaps in the condition they normally would. So that's the approach we're going to take, and as I said, I think communication is the key part of that program. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, any questions?
Does that mean, and I'm not being facetious, if we wanted a bare dirt front yard, we couldn't do that?
I believe we would consider that to be a violation, correct?
I mean, no weeds or anything, just dirt?
Dirt,
Yeah.
yes. Correct. Is that right, Michael? That would not be considered an acceptable type of landscape.
So there's got to be something there.
Put a
Right.
couple cactus in there.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people
There
have
you go.
rock gardens with cactus and different things, which may not be some people's preference, but things like that, could work.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
Councilmember Yu.
Yeah. Just very quickly, I understand that we have submitted an application to the San Gabriel Valley Water Smart City Challenge.
That's
And
correct.
I think one of the requirements is that we adopt a water conservation ordinance. So I guess that's forthcoming to the council.
I think Michael can address that.
Yes, we are working on that, and we hope to have that back to the council within the next couple of months. There's a state, it's called the Model Water Efficient Landscaping Ordinance, which is it's a state ordinance that actually all cities are either required to adopt the state ordinance or adopt their own version of the state ordinance. And what it requires is for landscape architects to come up with a water budget for their project based on the climate zone that your community is located in, and then come up with a landscape design that demonstrates that your water usage will not exceed the water budget for your climate zone. And it's very complicated, but landscape architects are familiar with dealing with it, and the rules vary depending on the size of the project and how much landscaping you're providing. Generally, single-family, individual homeowners that are doing their own landscaping are generally exempt from it, but multifamily projects or commercial projects would have to comply with it. So we're in the process now of doing our own version of the state ordinance that would qualify for that requirement, and we'll have that back before you within the next few months.
Would you also be looking at certain, like allow people to do the very thing that Councilmember Vizcarra said, allow perhaps single-family development without lawn, but with some other substitute like Seriousscape and other sustainable features? And even to the extent, I was thinking the other day that, because I think you and I talk about possibly of using decomposed granite as driveway. I believe the city ordinance would prohibit people from doing that, or just simply a gravel driveway or something to that nature. Maybe not to that extreme, but there are, maybe something in between that people can look at.
Yes, as part of that ordinance, one of the things that we're looking at is coming up, I don't know if it's going to be a code requirement or if it's going to be more of a policy guideline. We're still discussing that, but looking at what we would allow people to do and coming up with guidelines and a brochure or a handout that we can give to people saying this is okay and this isn't okay. And we're kind of doing that on the fly right now to some degree, because we're actually, there's a lot of residents in Temple City that are taking advantage of the MWD rebates for turf replacement. Some people are doing the artificial turf, and some people are doing the low water, the water efficient or the native landscaping, and we've been getting a lot of inquiries as far as what is okay and what isn't okay. So we're kind of making those calls on a case-by-case basis right now, because we don't have some really solid guidelines to go by, but we're in the process of developing those, and we'll be bringing those back as part of that ordinance.
Okay, perhaps you can also look at maybe just like we have a minimum percentage of infiltration area, permeable paving area for new development. I don't know, we would entertain having a maximum percentage of lawn area too, so.
Yes, that is something we could look
I
at.
thought we were doing that already.
Not, we have the permeable requirement,
Yeah.
but there's no maximum for grass for lawn, so.
I'm not aware of it. Some cities have a minimum requirement, but I'm not aware that we do. Are you, Michael?
We do have the maximum hardscape requirement, but beyond that, we don't have limits on turf versus other types of landscaping.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes, Michael, while you're up there, I just want to remind the audience and those that are watching at home that the yard of the quarter for August is drought-tolerant yards, so you can pick up an application to nominate a neighbor or someone in Temple City that you've driven by, and they have a beautiful drought-tolerant yard. So it's not just dirt in the front yard to nominate, but there's actual landscaping. What is the actual date? Do you know on that, Michael?
The deadline for nomination?
Yes.
I'm actually not sure. You don't know, do you, Kathy?
Look at it.
I'm not sure.
Well, maybe we can just,
Sorry.
if it's now, we can extend it
It's-
to the end of the month so that we can give people the opportunity to nominate.
I believe we were planning on doing a presentation at next month's meeting, so we could certainly look at extending that
Okay.
to the end of the month. Yes.
Thank you.
Other than the water challenge, and it seems to be kind of staff-driven, is there any role, or do you foresee any help that perhaps putting together some type of ad hoc, including maybe someone from the Parks and Recreation Commission or other commissions to work with staff on this and look at it from a policy standpoint? Or maybe we're putting ahead of ourselves at this point?
Yeah, I think it may be a little early. What I'd really like to do is get the meeting with the water companies and find out just what the status of their situation is and find out, in terms of where they're at in terms of, their pumping rights and things, programs that may be important to them. And then collectively, maybe we could, put together a strategy, because I just don't know what each company's situation is in terms of the amount of water they're pumping and as opposed to purchasing and strategies that they may be interested in, so we can do that sharing.
Why do we have so many water companies?
And they precede the history of the city's incorporation and just a lot of historical water.
Well, I know water's a big issue in our state,
Yeah.
and that just.
Yeah, and probably the city attorney could provide a lot more insight, but I know I've worked in communities that have their water functions, and the history of that, there's been a lot of litigation and, battles over who has water rights, and
Right.
even today, there's cases that, come up, and then you get into situations, each jurisdiction or each agency has a certain amount of right to the water, but then based on the drought, that water becomes less plentiful, so then they have what they call a water master, who basically determines how much water can be pumped annually out of that basin, what they call safe yield. So it's the
Pretty
history of the
complex,
state's very
yeah.
much entwined with the history of water in California.
Okay, this time I'd like to open up public comment. Does anybody from the public wish to comment? Oh, I'm sorry, were you done with your question?
I am.
Okay. Any from the, all right, we'll close public comment. Any last comments by council? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move item I.
A second?
Any objection? Hearing none, motion's carried, and we'll now move on to item
Jay,
J.
so you?
Who was it? That wasn't me.
I thought that was Vince.
Vince,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. This item before us tonight is to accept plans and specifications and to authorize the bid advertisement for demolition activities at 5800 Temple City Boulevard, which is really the mortuary property. As you all may know that last year we purchased the property, and then so the item before us is to approve the demolition plans. We've done our hazmat investigation, so this is actually to approve the demolition and basically turn that into a buildable pad. But at the same time, as recent as last week, the Future Development of City Properties Standing Committee consisting of Councilmember Viscar and myself. And city staff, we met several times regarding what we would like to do to the mortuary property after it's been made available. And we studied a number of options. We have, the city had authorized to hire an architect to do some preliminary studies. So last week we met and we looked at several different options, including using that property as parkland, using it for only for parking, a combination of the two. We looked at retail use such as bakery, such as cafe, and other options such as senior housing and possibility of different combination of that. And we are bringing this back to the city council for presentation in the near future. However, we noticed that our recommendation actually impacts tonight's decision of demolition. It is because we recognize that in order to develop this site, it's going to take anywhere upwards of from a year to 2-3 years. And if we demolish the site today and just fence it off, it's not helping. It's not providing any benefit to our city. So our recommendation from the committee is to the city council tonight is to perhaps postpone this item to next meeting or whenever staff is ready. Is to look at maybe modifying the demolition plans because there are existing landscaping on the site. There is an existing parking lot on the site. While it's not in great condition, potentially can be opened up for parking. While we do want to demolish the building, the committee would like to recommend to the city council that we postpone this item to give staff time to study and perhaps tie the demolition work into a sort of a transition plan, if you will, to allow the property be used as temporary parking, as some sort of a pocket park temporarily, while the city council would and city staff will look at a permanent development at the site.
And the potential use of the paved part.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
Okay, thank you.
So that.
Are there any council questions? No? All right, anything from the public? I'll open up public comment. Anybody from the public? Jerry?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Jerry Jambazian. I guess I would respectfully disagree with council member Yu. It seems to me that the building needs to be demolished anyway. So why not demolish the building? Because I'd rather look at a fence instead of that building that's been sitting there for probably anywhere from 6 months to a year, and it just looks terrible. So we know the building's going to have to come down, so I'm trying to understand your reasoning.
Yeah, maybe I didn't make myself clear, Mr. Jamaica. Our plan is actually demolish the building, but not demolish the parking lot, nor the trees.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, I didn't make myself clear. My apology. Yeah, our plan is to demolish the building and keep the parking lot itself as perhaps as temporary parking, and keep the landscaping, keep the trees there as potential of a pocket park. But staff will need to study that and bring back recommendations. So all we're saying is let's table this item for 1 or 2 council meetings for staff to come back with a full recommendation. And at that time, perhaps we'll even look at the number of options that we have looked at.
So you're actually tabling the demolition of the building?
For 1 or 2 meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Okay, I'll close public comments. Last council comments, anyone? Yes, interim city manager.
Thank you. And I just, if I may just elaborate on the councilman's comments, we will be ready for September 2nd for the presentation of the 5 or 6 development scenarios. So depending upon which scenario the council selects, the committee has a recommendation, but if you select another one that doesn't involve any private development, then it probably would make sense to demo the whole site, because then if you're looking at strictly just a park or a park and private parking, then it would be easiest just to clear the whole thing. But as the councilman pointed out, and the committee said, but if you're interested in some commercial development of the site, then maybe the parking lot can be temporary. So that's why I think the timing will work well. You'll have a chance to look at the various scenarios, plus it'll give us a couple weeks to run some numbers on what it would cost to, kind of get the building location cleaned up a little bit so it could be usable for the public, and look at the parking lot to see if it needs a little bit of work to clean it up. So we could have those numbers as well. So we'd probably be looking at a 2-week continuance, because we'll be ready to bring the various scenarios to you at your next meeting.
Okay. Any other council comments? I agree with Councilmember Yu. It sounds to me like the rationale is good. Maybe really looking at it before we see what we're going to do, keep our options open. I do agree with Jerry, however, and that is, what do we want to look at? Do we want to look at an ugly building, or do we want to look at an open site? But it sounds like we're probably going to demolish the building. It's just what we're going to do with the rest of it. So I think it gives us better options, and so I think that's a good recommendation.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is a good problem to have. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to move to table this item until the September 2nd meeting, to give staff more time to bring a more comprehensive recommendation.
Second.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion will pass, and so we'll see it back in a couple of weeks. Okay, thank you. All right, before we move on to item number 8, we have a brief presentation to make. We're pleased to welcome to our city and our meeting tonight Captain Malden, who is our new captain of our Temple Station. And Mr. Penman, did you want to say a few
Well, I just
words?
wanted to introduce him.
Come on up, Captain.
I didn't want to put him on the spot per se, but...
You have a speech all worked out, right?
But I did ask if he could attend, since he's the new captain for the Temple Station, and we'll be seeing a lot of him in the future, and I thought it would be important for I think many of the council members have met him, but maybe not as a group, and also the public hasn't had that chance. So I invited, and I appreciate Captain Malden coming to the council meeting tonight.
All right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and council members. It's an honor to be the captain here at Temple Station. I've been here almost 2 months so far, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's a very busy place to work, but it's a rewarding one. And I'm looking forward to my tenure here and working with the city council here, getting to know you and the community as well. And I thank you again for having me here for an introduction tonight.
Well, thank you for coming, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 8, public hearing, approval of annual fee and fine schedule for fiscal year 2014-2015, incorporating all current fees and fines and establishing new city fees for planning, public works, public safety and services, and community preservation. Presentation by Community Development Director.
Thank you. Good evening. This is the public hearing that was continued from your July 15th meeting, and we recommended at that time that you continue it to this evening's meeting with the intention that we would have the fee study work done and would be able to have that before you with a recommendation to approve it tonight. Unfortunately, our work on that is not moving quite as quickly as we had hoped, so we are recommending this evening that you again open the public hearing and accept any testimony if there is any, and then continue it. We intend to have it back before you in September or October, but rather than continuing it to a date certain this evening, we're recommending that you continue it to a date uncertain, and then we will just renotice it. Once we have a date nailed down and we're ready to bring that forward, we will renotice it in the paper rather than picking a specific date this evening.
Okay. Council questions? All right, I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing. Council comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to continue this item to a future date to allow staff additional time to complete the analysis.
Second.
Okay. Any objection? Hearing none, the
You know,
motion will pass.
just a quickie, maybe it's here and I didn't see it. Is there going to be some kind of a summary document that has fines and fees?
Yes, right now we have a couple different documents. We have a fee schedule and a fine schedule, and they've been adopted at different times over the years. So our intent is to take all of the fees and fines from all of the city departments and put them all together into a single master fee and fine schedule. So we will be bringing that forward to you along with the justification for why we're recommending the fees that we're recommending. So that will all come back to you in one package.
So we can put it up there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have motion and a second passed, so we will now move on to item 8B, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 14-995, amending section 3-5D-9.d and adding section 3-5D-11 of Article A of Chapter 5 of Title 3 of the Temple City Municipal Code relative to dogs in public parks. Sounds like an ordinance to me.
What did you say?
Sounds like a lot of legal speak, but Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. We are very excited tonight. We actually have two items on your agenda that are relative to the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. This first one is, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, an ordinance that would allow dogs on leashes in certain areas of the city parks. As way of background, after several months of study, including extensive community outreach, the City Council adopted the Parks and Open Space Master Plan on April 2nd of this year. One of the recommendations from the master plan was to revise the existing code to allow dogs in city parks. Pet-friendly spaces was number 6 on the facility amenity priority rankings, and so we wanted to move forward with this. Prior to presenting a recommendation to the City Council, however, staff conducted a survey of 10 local cities, and we found that 8 out of those 10 cities currently allow dogs in their public parks with restrictions. So the Parks and Recreation Commission began a discussion on this item at their May 21st meeting and directed staff at that time to proceed with a proposed code amendment. However, the commission also asked staff to gather additional public input. To that end, we conducted a public survey both in the parks and online between May 27th and June 13th. We received about 175 responses, and approximately 70% of the respondents supported a code amendment to allow leashed dogs in city parks. Just briefly, some of the survey results. We asked if the individual we were interviewing was supportive, or the level of support for allowing leashed dogs in the parks. As you can see, 58% were very supportive, 12 somewhat supportive, and then 3% somewhat against, 22 very against. We asked the residents any areas where they felt dogs should not to be allowed in the parks. At Live Oak Park, these are the areas where they felt they should not be. Predominantly the playgrounds and your sports facilities. Interestingly enough, at the bottom, there were 11% that felt there should be no prohibitions. They should be allowed anywhere in the parks.
You know, real briefly, what is a passive grass area?
Passive grass areas would be at Live Oak Park. They would be your areas, for instance, by the concession stand, the grass area leading into the park on Bogue next to the community center, on the far west side of the park along the property line by the picnic shelters. Anything that's not athletic fields. Here at Temple City Park, again, playground was the #1 area where people felt dogs should not be allowed, and then going on the Performing Arts Pavilion, etc. So this information was presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission at their meeting on June 18th. The commission did have some concerns with the proposed wording in one of the sections, 3-5D-11B1. In particular, the phrase competent and capable person. That section read, dogs must be securely restrained by a leash no longer than 6 feet of sufficient strength and under the full care, custody, and proper control of a competent and capable person. There's discussion at the meeting as to whether we should include an age restriction in that or not. So at that meeting, the commission requested staff to compare language from other cities again, to see how they dealt with that issue. We did so and find out that almost universally, they all had similar language, very few referenced an age. They were all very general, that the person, irregardless of the age, had to be competent. Staff provided a copy of the proposed code amendment as well to our enforcement officers. We wanted to find out if what was being proposed was going to be enforceable, and if there were any concerns. We provided it to our code enforcement officers, community preservation officers, as well as park patrol officers. Really, the only issue that any of them expressed was a concern about safety and possible issues with aggressive dogs in the parks. So we did a quick survey of cities again and found out that really there were very few issues in the parks themselves. The only issues that I think there were 3 that had indicated there was an issue, but they were either outside of park facilities or they were in park areas that are adjacent to your foothills involving coyotes or other wildlife. So this information was presented to the commission at their July 16th meeting. At that time, the commission approved the proposed amendment to allow leash dogs in certain areas of the city's parks and recommended approval of the ordinance to the city council. So real quickly, the ordinance itself does 2 things. It amends section 3-5D9, in particular section D, which currently reads that no person in a park or civic center shall have been responsible for the entry of a dog or other domesticated animal into, et cetera, areas other than automobile parking concourses. The recommendation is to amend that to read, no person in a park or civic center shall have been responsible for the entry of a dog or other domestic animal into a city park, except for dogs under the circumstances as provided for in section 3-5D11. That is a new section now that will list, and this is just some highlights. The entire ordinance is attached to your staff report. It lists the section A, dogs are prohibited in the following areas of the parks. And it lists the ones there: building interiors, patios, covered walkways, performing arts pavilion, playgrounds, picnic shelters, tennis, basketball courts, athletic fields, baseball, softball fields, bleachers, and areas temporarily designated by the director during special events. One of the things the commission discussed was to not allow dogs at special events. After talking with the city attorney, we felt it was better to put the wording in this way, that areas temporarily designated by the director during special events. We didn't, for instance, want to allow dogs in the parks and then have a Halloween carnival or summer concert with a couple thousand people and have 1,000 dogs in the park. So that's why this section is included in there.
I didn't understand, Kathy.
You don't want?
You can or you can't?
Cannot.
Okay.
So like concert in a park?
Could not. If, for instance, for the concerts in the park here at Temple City Park, we could say that because right now, the grass areas at Temple City Park are considered passive areas, so they would be allowed in the parks. However, this A10 says that the director can designate areas during special events, so we would designate that the grass areas in the park would not be open for dogs. The perimeter areas could be, or something to that, of that nature.
Well, I know that now most people will sit on the perimeter with their dogs.
Correct.
Rather than have them in, although there are some dogs that are in there, but I think those are usually dogs that are the guide dogs.
Service
and
dogs.
Service dogs,
Yes.
which are exempt from this anyway.
Right.
Do
So
we
that-
take
so
any
that won't-
action against people whose dogs make a mess and they don't pick it up?
Right now,
Yeah.
we,
Or can we?
we
will be in this
advise them that dogs are not allowed in the parks.
I'm sorry?
We advise them that dogs are not allowed in the parks. We don't have anything other than them not being allowed in the parks.
Yeah, but now
currently.
that we have this,
We have a section to address that.
Two.
Moving on.
I
Um,
didn't see it. but-
So the next
Hold on a
section,
second, let her finish.
B, would say that dogs are permitted in passive grass areas, et cetera, or areas designated from time to time by the director. The following requirements shall be adhered to by the person responsible for the dog. The first one is the section we discussed briefly before, that dogs must be securely restrained by a leash no longer than 6 feet, et cetera. The second one is that persons responsible for the dog shall immediately remove and properly dispose of any dog waste. So yes, now we can
Okay.
issue citations if there is dog waste left in the park.
And that citation is what you have in paragraph D, $100 first
Yes.
offense and $200 second offense.
Yes, any violation of this ordinance would be subject to those, to administrative citation and those fees.
Kathy, so you're proposing to leave the words competent and capable?
Yes.
And who makes that determination?
That has to be determined by the enforcement officers or staff, any staff that are there. And the reason we left it that way, when we talked about at the commission level, you could have a 50-year-old man that has a St. Bernard dog that does not have control of the dog. You could have a 14-year-old child that has a small dog that has complete control. And so age really had nothing to do with it. And that's why we looked at the other city ordinances, and I believe that is an attachment to your staff report, whereby they pretty much universally, other than one city, I believe, said 18, but they all have a wording that is similar to this. And the reason for that, I think, is because you want to make sure that the person that has the dog, it doesn't matter what their age is, but they have to have control of the dog. If you have someone, and we see someone that, the dog is controlling the person, we would have to ask them to take the dog out of the park.
I'd just like to ask our city attorney, when I've gone to JPIA trainings and risk management, it seems like those are the types of words that get cities in trouble with liability, because there's nothing really specific tied to those words, and who makes that determination?
The director is correct. Initially, it would be the citing officer who would make that determination. If the determination was challenged, it would be either an administrative law judge or the supervisor or actual judge in a court who would make that determination. It is a factual determination. We did look at that. I agree with the director's approach, because there isn't any absolute clear standard that you can apply that will guarantee that the dog is under control. You could have a high-spirited dog with a capable, competent person and still might have problems. You could have a person who's 18 or older and still have problems. They're not necessarily capable and competent. A person who is 12 years old might be very capable and competent to control their dog. It really depends under the circumstances. So we went with the factually laden test that was originally in the language.
So is that our park ranger that would be the that would enforce this?
It could be the park patrol officers or our community preservation officers or any sheriff's law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
So we would have something in the ordinance that would designate who those people were specifically?
No, they're
No, it would
designated
just
in your
be-
code.
Yeah, the city has officers that are designated to enforce the city codes
Okay,
already.
thank you.
Does that conclude your report?
Real briefly, let me just finish the report. So tonight, the council is requested to introduce ordinance 14995 for first reading by title only, waive further reading of the ordinance, and schedule second reading of the ordinance for September 2nd, 2014.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move to council questions. Councilmember Yu.
Councilmember Sternquist brought up JPIA. Is this something that we have discussed with JPIA, or the staff view that we need to check with them on their view?
We did not check with JPIA. We don't feel this is necessarily going to be a liability. The reason we checked with the other cities was to see what they were doing, and I will tell you, I was very surprised that as many cities did allow dogs in the park as do. I was under the impression they did not. So we have not checked with JPIA in this regards. I think from my past experience with JPIA, as long as there are restrictions and checks and balances in place, they would normally be okay with ordinances of this sort. But it's certainly something that we can do if the council feels we need to do that.
Maybe you can bring it back next time. At least it's good to find out what they think. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, I know Councilmember Yu brings up a good point, and that is that, and also Councilmember Sternquist, and all the seminars we go to, their rule of thumb is that it's prudent to run it by them. They're the ones who are going to be defending us, and to have them take a look at it. Not to say that our city attorney and our staff are not competent, certainly, to render an opinion, but since they are the ones who are going to be defending us on a liability matter such as this. They offer that as part of the service to look at any ordinance to determine if there are any potential problems. And I don't, I think it's a point well taken. So, any other council questions at this time? Okay, then I'll open up the public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard on this matter? Jerry? Don't be shy.
He's not.
I guess I have a question of Director Burrows. Of the 12 cities you surveyed, we probably have the least amount of park space of the ones that you possibly surveyed. But I'm just thinking, would there be signage, and would there be different signage for Live Oak Park, and would there be different signage for Temple City Park?
There would likely be signage, and I will tell you that is one of the things that we discussed at the commission level, that because of the way that we have proposed this ordinance, would be challenging to get the signage, because there's certain areas where the dogs are or are not allowed. Likely, we would put signs up that dogs are welcome in this part of the park, or something to that effect. But yes, there would be signage, and it would have to be different for both parks.
For both parks?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Council comments?
No comment.
No comments? Well, first of all, I want to thank our Parks and Rec commissioners for the work they put into this. I know we have 3 of our commissioners here, Commissioners Fish, Giorgino, and Russo. So thank you very much for the time and effort you put into this. This is one of those items that certainly was discussed in the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, and one of those so-called, which I'll take the phrase from Mayor Bloom likes to quote, and that is one of those low-hanging fruits that we know that we can hopefully get done. And so with that, however, I still have a concern, and maybe the city attorney, we can shed some light. Should we, out of abundance of caution, have this reviewed by JPIA, or do you feel confident? I feel confident, actually, in looking at the ordinance and the language that is being used, that it comports with the legal requirements that I know of in the law. But I don't know. How do you feel about that, one way or another?
I always recommend that you run it by JPIA. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what you said is exactly correct. They're your insurer. They're the ones who assess risk. What we can't do is assess your risk of an event occurring. I don't know your claims history.
Right.
We don't know how many of these type of accidents have happened. They really have a vast amount of experience in those type of risk assessment areas, because they see claims from all over cities. So it's a very valuable tool. It's a service they provide. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it? I do think that you can probably introduce the ordinance to keep the ball rolling, and in the interim, run it by JPIA.
I think they'll be able to give us a pretty quick review.
I do, and if they have some changes that they recommend, we can figure that out at that
And we
point.
can always do those on the second reading, I believe, can't we? Or
We're
do
not
we?
supposed to
Can we?
make changes at
we
the
can't
second
bring it-
reading, but we can continue it and
Okay.
renotice it. and
So,
if they-
so your recommendation would be to go ahead and introduce it for first reading?
Introduce it, but
With the
absolute-
recommendation that
absolutely
we
run it
have
by
JPI look at it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, given that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a.
Councilmember Sternquist?
I have to put my glasses on. I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance, I can't see the numbers. 14-995 for first reading by title only, amending section 3-5 D-0.
No, 90.
90. And these are the 99-cent store type. of Article A.
And adding.
You know what? Go ahead, Tom, and
Oh,
just
okay.
finish it.
And adding section 35D-11 of Article A of Chapter 5 of Title 3 of the Temple City Municipal Code. Waive further reading of ordinance number 14-995 and schedule the second reading of ordinance number 14-995 for September 2nd, 2014. And before we have the clerk read the ordinance, we also add to that motion, if it's okay with you,
Yes.
that the matter be sent to JPIA to review the new ordinance regarding liability issues, and we can address those at the next scheduled reading.
Second.
Okay? All right. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, did you need to?
Ordinance number 14-995. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Temple City, California, amending Section 3, 5D, 9D, and adding Section 3, 5D, 11 of Article A of Chapter 5 of Title 3 of the Temple City Municipal Code relating to dogs in public parks.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, is that okay? We're good? Okay. All right, we'll now move on to item 9, unfinished business, none. Item 10, new business, adoption. Item 10A, adoption of resolution number 14-5021, approving the filing of an application for grant funds from the Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District for 5th supervisorial, did I get that right?
Supervisorial.
Yes, close enough. District excess funding, approving the required youth employment plan and authorizing the interim city manager or his designee to execute the agreement for the 2014 Competitive Access Funds Grant Program. Kathy,
Another long title.
Director Burrows, go ahead.
Thank you. As was mentioned in the somewhat lengthy title, this is a resolution we're asking the council to approve for grant funding through the Regional Park and Open Space District. In partnership with the Regional Park and Open Space District, Supervisor Michael Antonovich has made available $5 million from his excess funds for a competitive grant program to cities, county agencies, and nonprofits in the 5th District. Proposals are due by 2 p.m. on September 3rd. Projects may consist of improvements to and/or rehabilitation of existing public parks, improvements to and a rehabilitation of community recreation facilities, and/or development of new small facilities. Priority will be given to projects that serve at-risk youth and senior citizens. The minimum grant request is $15,000. The maximum grant request is $300,000. Matching funds of at least 25% are recommended. And projects must be completed within 2 years of the date of execution of the grant agreement. Real quickly, here are the proposal requirements. We're not going to go over them all. However, we do want to touch on a youth employment plan. We will talk about it a little bit more at the end of the presentation. All of the county, the projects that are funded through the 92 and 96 propositions place a special emphasis on employing youth in park improvement projects. In fact, they state that funds shall be used to the maximum extent feasible to employ at-risk youth from the community in which the particular project is being carried out. Therefore, we must adopt our youth employment plan as well as part of this resolution. So the Parks and Recreation Commission considered possible projects for funding through the 2015 grant program at a special meeting we had on July 31st. Staff proposed 2 projects for consideration. However, we encourage the commission to discuss or propose other projects as well. The 2 projects that we looked at were based on the following: the relevance to the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, the priority rankings from the master plan, impacts on upcoming facility master plans for Live Oak Park and Temple City Park. We are, within the next couple months, going to be starting on specific master plans for each park. The feasibility of a 2-year completion. There are a lot of projects that we could have submitted for, in particular joint projects with the school districts, but they cannot be completed within 2 years. And the estimated cost. The 2 projects staff proposed to the commission were a new playground and picnic areas here at Temple City Park and a rubberized walking, jogging path at Live Oak Park. I'll go over both projects very briefly. At Temple City Park, the new playground and picnic areas would include removal of the existing playground and the semi-covered picnic shelter, installation of new themed playground equipment, and new covered picnic areas, probably smaller picnic areas that were covered throughout the area. We would use the majority of the grass area where the playground is now. Right now, we have a very small, probably 20 by 40 playground equipment, and the grass area itself is much larger. New playground equipment and additional picnic shelters were identified in the top 10 facility amenity rankings. They were, I believe, 5 and 7, if I remember right. The estimated budget for this project, and this is a preliminary, very preliminary estimated budget, is just over $400,000, about $440,000. The other project is a rubberized walking jogging path at Live Oak Park. City of Rosemead a couple years ago installed a rubberized walking path, and it is very heavily used. In fact, the picture at the lower left on the screen is Rosemead Park.
Do you know what that cost them?
I do not know what the cost was of that one. So the installation of the rubberized walking path would be around the perimeter of Live Oak Park. It would be made from tire-derived product. The path would be approximately half a mile long, and our recommendation is to make it dog-friendly. Would include installation of distance markers, benches, could be dual drinking fountains for dogs and people, and waste stations. We felt that this project, the path could be used by seniors in the lunch program or from the adjacent convalescent home across the street. Estimated budget for this project is about $320,000. The Parks and Recreation Commission recommended the rubberized walking jogging path at Live Oak Park, and their recommendation was based on the following. First of all, the walking trails is the #1 requested amenity in the master plan, walking and biking trails. This would provide additional opportunities for people to walk at Live Oak Park. Secondly, since priority is given to projects that serve seniors or at-risk youth, the Commission felt that the proximity of the convalescent hospital and assisted living center and the location of the senior lunch program at Live Oak Park could provide additional support for the grant application, whereas the playground project here at Temple City Park probably would not receive any additional points for that. Additionally, funds may be available from Cal Recycle through their tire-derived product grant program to offset the city's matching requirement. There are funds available usually annually, and I believe the deadline for applications is early fall for rubberized surfaces. And so that could offset a portion of the city's matching grant requirements. And the walking jogging path would serve a broader range of residents and would likely be used by more community members than a playground. The Commission felt that both were excellent projects, and we hope to see both projects completed. However, their recommendation at this time is to submit the walking path for the Antonovich grant. In regards to the youth employment plan, as I mentioned earlier, a youth employment plan is required for all projects funded through the Los Angeles County Regional Parks and Open Space District. The council must adopt a youth employment plan at a duly noticed meeting for each grant. If the city council approves the filing of the application for the walking jogging path at Live Oak Park, it is proposed that the city enter into an MOU with the San Gabriel Valley Conservation Corps to assist with the installation of waste stations, benches, and other site amenities, as well as landscape repairs and plantings. I should mention that the San Gabriel Valley Conservation Corps assisted us with the youth employment portion of our tree planting grant through Supervisor Antonovich and did an outstanding job as well. So we're comfortable using their services for to complete our youth employment portion of this as well. So tonight,
Does that entail hiring youth of our community then or just open
no,
it up
because
to everybody?
if we enter into an agreement with a local conservation corps, either the California Conservation Corps or one of the local ones, it is assumed that they are hiring at-risk youth from the community, and so we would not have to do it on our own. So the council is requested to adopt resolution number 14-5021, approving the filing of an application for grant funds for the walking jogging path at Live Oak Park, approve the required youth employment plan, and authorize the interim city manager or his designee to execute the agreement for the 2015 Competitive Access Funds Grant Program. I should mention briefly that there were a few other projects that were discussed. At the previous, during the consent calendar, Councilmember, you mentioned the mortuary property. There was a brief discussion on that. However, we don't feel, well, we know we won't be ready to submit anything for September 2nd application. If there were to be a pocket park developed there, that would certainly be an excellent project, but that is not far enough along to meet the September 2nd deadline requirement. We briefly discussed joint projects with the schools, in particular an aquatic facility. But again, with the school district involved in the timeframe they have for their projects, as well as having to go through DSA for any of their projects, would not meet the 2-year requirement either. So realistically, we think this is probably the best project at this point. We are excited to submit a grant application. We have about 2 weeks to get the application put together. I should also mention that I did notice on the Parks and Open Space District website today that the county will have another park bond on the November ballot for LA County again. We have the 92 and 96 one, so it looks like they are proposing a bond for 2014 as well. This is in addition to the state was also looking at floating a park bond in November. Not sure if that one's going to make the ballot, but it looks like there could be at least one coming up on the November ballot. So we are hopeful that there will be additional funding opportunities for projects that are consistent with the master plan.
Okay, thank you. Council questions? Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, open public comment. Any comments from the public? Jerry? No? You know I had to say that. All right, we'll close public comments. Any last council comments? Well, I just want to say that, again, it's nice to see the Parks and Recreation Commission following through on these items. You know, in the past, we've always commented how we get these studies done, and sometimes they sit on the shelf and do nothing, and now here we are putting those things into action, and that's a good thing for the city, I think. And so, you know, we need to get back on Parks and Rec.
I guess so.
We're doing a lot of
Too
good
much
work
fun.
down there, I'll tell you. So, so anyway, that's, you know, thank you again for the work, and I think that having this walking and jogging path, but is this, you said, I think you did mention that the dogs would probably
Yes.
be allowed on there, and that's where we're gonna put the little doggy stations and all that kind of stuff. Good deal.
Benches.
All right,
Drinking
benches. I
fountains.
saw the bench, the bench that had the dog bones on there. That was kind of cute, so. Okay, well then, no further comment. I'll entertain a motion.
I can see it.
Can you see it?
No.
No? Okay, well, let's get somebody who can see it. You want to do it?
Okay.
You ready, Vince?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we adopt resolution number 145021, approving the filing of an application for grant funds from the LA County Regional Park Open Space District, approving the required youth employment plan, and authorizing the interim city manager or his designee to execute the agreement for the 2015 Competitive Access Funds Grants Program.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, the motion will pass, and good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, we will now, or I should say, I'm pleased to move on to this next item, item B. One of those things that many of you know we've been working on for quite a, well, not quite a while, but at least for the last couple of months.
It's been quite a while.
It's been quite a while, yeah, okay, it's been quite a while. And tonight, we are here to approve an employment agreement with our hopefully new city manager, Brian Cook. This approval is necessary to fill a critical position with the city. Obviously, the city manager is the chief executive officer of the city, serves as department head for the Management Services Department. He is responsible for the efficient direction of all departments in the administrative affairs of the city, including direct support to the city council. Candidate must still successfully complete his live scan check and physical examination. And I will now turn it over to our interim city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. I think you were very well covered. much of the process. I would just add that the city had a very good response from interested candidates. 35 people applied for the city manager position, which in today's world is actually a very good response. And the council spent many hours first narrowing down the number of folks that you would like to interview, and then conducting those interviews and reviewing background checks. So I think the council did a very thorough job. And the candidate that you've selected, subject to your approval tonight, is an outstanding candidate who's got about 16 years of experience in local government with 2 different cities, and I think he'll do a great job. His starting date would be September 15th, and so as you noted, the recommendation is to approve the employment agreement with the subject to the successful passing of the city physical and the live scan, but also there was one change in the agreement under 4.1 by city, not for a cause, and we handed you a single page that would be a substitute clause for 4.1. And essentially what that involves is just the city, as part of the agreement, provides for 6-month severance for the candidate. There was some different language that was in there by mistake previously. So that's the essence of the agreement, and either the city attorney or I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know Mr. Cook is in the audience tonight, so if you had any questions.
Everybody's looking around.
Yeah, which one is?
Which one is it? Well, the real Brian Cook, please stand up.
Well, he's not
We'll wait
sitting-
for that in a minute. We haven't approved it yet.
That's right. It
Okay.
could be.
Okay, thank you. All right, any council questions? All right, hearing none, we will open public comment. Any comment from the public? Hearing none, we will close public comment. Council comments. Anyone would like to make any comments on the procedures, the agreement?
The only thing, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I'd just
Councilmember
like
Turner.
to thank all of you and of course, Mayor Bloom for the time and effort that was putting in. We had an ad hoc committee.
She was going to get to you. All right, calm down.
Of Councilmember Viscara and Bloom, who actually went out to a couple of cities to interview staff and council of our 2 finalists. And they drove quite a distance in one respect. So I just want to thank you. And Don also for taking part and sitting in on those interviews. And it was a really great process. I think that we wanted to do this right. And we knew that our residents here deserved the best city manager that we could find. And I think we found him. And I think that our residents are going to be quite pleased. I think our staff is going to welcome him with open arms, and they will build a strong relationship. So most definitely for all the work that the council did in looking for the right person.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I think the process was good, fair. We've done a lot of work, and thank you, Councilmember Viscara and Mayor Bloom. They did a lot of work, travel long distance, not just traveling to the city, but actually taking the time talking to many different people. And so can come back and give us good recommendations. So I'm looking forward to working with Mr. Cook.
Okay. Well, I know Mayor Bloom would want to thank everyone, of course, for their efforts. This is not an easy process. Very, very qualified candidates. I'd like to also thank Bob Murray and our consultant who helped us with this search as well. You know, I think we did our due diligence, and, you know, it's not an exact science. You know, we're all up here. We all come with different views and ideas, but in the end, you know, we always try to make that best determination that we can based on the facts that are available to us. And so I would echo my fellow council members' comments that I am also pleased with the outcome, and I think it will be to the advantage of the city moving forward from here. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
You never let me say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't touch it. You haven't said anything, so I just passed you off. You got all the accolades already, what do you know?
No,
Councilmember Viscara.
I just wanted to say that it's a mixed blessing. I think we made a good choice, and I'm glad that we have somebody coming on board. But it's kind of bittersweet too, because I really like the interim city manager that we have now. So this is kind of saying, well, your days are numbered, you know? But you've done a wonderful job, and thank you so much for the help you've given us, and that's it.
Okay. And now you can re-enjoy in retirement. They can just keep pulling you back, but, all right. Okay, so we'll entertain a motion. Who would like to make the motion? You can't read, so, there's no numbers in
I
this
keep
one.
turning
You
my
wanna-
I'll make a
thing off.
motion
Okay.
to approve.
Councilmember.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With the section 4.1 as amended.
Right, yeah, we have to make sure.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right,
Sue?
go ahead. You want to do it, or you want to?
go ahead.
Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, I would move to approve the city manager employment agreement for Mr. Brian Cook with the new page, with the new section 4.1 in the attachment, and authorize the mayor and the city attorney to execute an employment agreement with Mr. Cook, effective completion of his live scan, check, and physical exam.
Second.
Okay. Why don't we take a roll call vote on this one?
Councilmember Stringquist,
Yes.
Councilmember Viscara.
Yes.
Councilmember Yu,
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Yes.
Mayor Bloom's absent.
Okay. The motion is passed, and with that, I'm very pleased and honored to introduce to you Mr. Brian Cook. Brian, you want to come on up and introduce yourself?
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, members of the public, City Council, I am both honored and humbled by your appointment this evening. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with city staff, you, the community at large, to ensure that that trust has been given properly on a day-to-day basis, working really hard to make sure that this community continues to thrive and move forward and prosper as it is. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And I don't know if we stated it, we might have, but Brian will officially begin September 15th. So we look forward to him coming on board. Okay, we will now go to item number 11, communications, none. Number 12, update from the city manager.
Mr. Mayor,
You know what? Excuse me, before we go there, why don't we take about a 10-minute break, if that's okay?
Sure.
Just real quick,
Okay.
5-minute break. 5-minute break. 5 minutes, counting down.
I'm watching.
you soon. All right, take care. Hey, you know my law office is in Pasadena. Yeah, no, you're in Colorado, in the City Bank building right on the corner of Colorado and Garfield, just across south of the City Hall building.
Yeah, you're really close.
Yeah.
Bill on Chester, but Bill between on Chester.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, and I teach at PCC, so that's all right, we'll see you later. Take care. Okay, if we want to take our seats, we'll get started promptly. They just ignored me, I think. Nobody's been listening to me. Can you hear me out there?
So, shall we continue? I guess it's just two of us.
Just the two of us. We need one
Not
more.
enough,
Cindy's out there.
She is out there. She's talking for Park and Rec.
Yeah.
Let me go.
I don't know, we might have to have a crew. You're running a pretty quick meeting.
Getting geared up.
By the way, we're going to only need one closed session, which you can't sit down anyway. So
Okay.
The other three, we put them there just in case. One was Pierre's, we don't need that. I don't want to do the management now.
So you're only going to do the labor negotiation? So do you want me to stick around?
No, there's not going to be any action. They're going to give the directions to the review.
So somebody else can close the meeting.
Oh, that's right. You close it. Well,
I'll ask Eric.
That's Garrett. Yeah, I don't know. Or not. I hate to see you sit around.
I hate to sit around
Because it could be half hour to an hour.
Yeah. It's not going to be in court in the morning anyway. You ready? Okay. It's cold in here. It is. Well, it feels good, actually.
Keep us awake.
Okay. I'll wait for you. Well, that looks good.
Kind of juicy.
Where's Eric? Where'd Eric go?
Huh? He's talking to his attorney.
Oh, he's probably talking to. We can get started.
Okay.
We're waiting for our city manager and city attorney to return.
Ah.
Okay, we will reconvene and we will move to item number 12, our update from our city manager.
Good evening, City Council. I just have one announcement tonight. There are two performances left in this summer's Concert in the Park series. Tomorrow night's concert features Elvis impersonator Raymond Michael, followed by series finale on August 27th with Fortunate Son, a Creedence Clearwater tribute band. Both performances are free and begin at 7 p.m. at Temple City Park. In closing, I'd like to thank the event sponsors and the Parks and Recreation Department for yet another successful concert series. And on a personal note, just as a reminder, this will be my last City Council meeting because I'll be out of town on September 2nd. I'll still be your manager the following week, but so since this is my last opportunity to publicly thank the council for selecting me to be your interim and giving me the opportunity to work with you, it's been a very rewarding, interesting experience, and working with all of you who are really committed to doing the right things for the community. So I've enjoyed that experience, and I appreciate that you gave me that opportunity. I'll still be around for a few more weeks, but this will be my last council meeting, and I also want to specifically thank Mayor Pro Tem Chavez for the donuts on council meeting mornings. The staff quickly found out that my favorite's a chocolate bar, and it always appears on my desk in the morning first thing. So, but in any case, all kidding aside, I appreciate the opportunity. I enjoyed working with all of you and the staff, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to item 13, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Does anyone have a report? Rosemary Boulevard? Vince, do we have anything on that?
Yeah, the Rosemary Boulevard standing meeting met last week. Basically, we're going over the punch list items, things that needed to be done, and we discussed about the planting and what to do about some of the perhaps might be mistaken as more weed looking. What to do about, and a lot of that is really, the plan is still young and growing, and so we're hopeful that, well, we're gonna trim all the extra, yellow part, but we're hopeful that in the future will be fuller and look much better. The project is substantially complete, and we'll be issuing that to the contractor. So it's just a matter of finishing, tidying up the loose ends. We'll be meeting again in a month's time.
Okay, thank you. We also had a future development of city property standing committee meeting.
Yeah, I believe I made that report at the earlier item on the mortuary property. Yeah, we met last Friday.
Okay.
So we'll be basically bringing this item back to the council at the next meeting.
Great. Okay, and I and Mayor Bloom had met for the strategic plan implementation standing committee last week, and we're very close working with Director House, Mr. Penman, and so we are getting there, and we have another meeting scheduled for August 23rd. I think the plan, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, is to bring that back to council first or second meeting in September. So we should have a little more information on that in the next month. Okay, anything else? Before we move out of this area, there's a couple of things that Mayor Bloom had passed on to me to bring to the council's attention. One is, and that is to the committee members or council members Viscar and you regarding your work on the future development of city properties. Standing committee, as some of you know, was brought to our attention regarding an issue with our apartment units that the city owns on Primrose. And so if you haven't seen that email, maybe check with Mr. Penman. But that sounds like something that perhaps the ad hoc, or the standing committee could maybe take a look at to see what, if any, issues can be resolved or brought to the attention of the council.
Okay.
So that would be, I guess, a recommendation to look into that.
We'll follow up.
Okay. And then second item is that the formation of a new ad hoc committee. As you know, we do go through periodic reviews of both our city manager and our city attorney, and it has come time for the review of our city attorney. And so the recommendation would be to appoint an ad hoc committee to start that ball rolling. Mayor Bloom asked that he and I be part of that ad hoc committee to look into that, unless there's someone else who wishes to be on that.
It's all yours.
All right, thank you. So as the Mayor Pro Tem filling in for Carl Bloom, then I will appoint Mayor Bloom and myself to serve on that ad hoc committee. I don't know, how should we term that? To kind of, okay, city attorney evaluation. All right, sounds good.
Tom,
Yes,
did we have an ad hoc the last time we did it?
I think we did.
We did?
Yeah, I believe we did.
I kind of remember
Yeah.
that, too.
And kind of come up with some procedures. and-
Evaluation
Yeah, it should be
tool or
pretty
something?
quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it would still, the whole council would be involved in the
Oh, yeah,
evaluation
of course.
process.
Yeah, yeah,
But the ad hoc would kind of set the framework.
framework and stuff, yeah.
I'm just asking because we have a lot of ad hoc committees.
Actually, we have less than we did before. Remember, we cleaned out a bunch of them.
But we still have a lot.
It seems like we have more standing committees than we do ad hocs now. Well, how many, I mean, we only have one ad hoc, actually. The rest are all
Well, I
standing
guess
committees.
standing committees
Yeah,
then.
yeah, we do have a lot of standing committees.
Those don't go away either.
No, those don't go away too soon, so. But a couple of them look like they're running their course, so hopefully. That's for another discussion another day. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item number 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda, and we'll start with Councilmember Sternquist.
Just want to make sure that I take the time to thank Don. It's been great working with you, and I think everyone who has had any interaction with you, as was evident tonight, will say that you're great, and we wish you could stay, but we're looking forward to working with Brian, and we know you're going on a trip soon, so enjoy that trip. And possibly we'll see you out of retirement again in another city. And I want to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. He received the Community Service Award from the Chamber at the Saturday night Chamber's 90th celebration. So congratulations to that. It was a great event, and I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilmember Viscara.
And he gave a nice talk about it.
He did.
I made sure to remember to include all of us. Right?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes. I really don't have much, but there is one thing I keep meaning to bring up, and I keep forgetting, but I remembered tonight. Have any of you had any coyote sightings? I have seen them in front of my house twice now, in the middle of the day.
Middle of the day.
Yeah, going down Golden West. Have you too? Yeah, so,
I've seen them before around your house in the morning, driving to work, but not recently.
yeah, well, this was the day of the last meeting, 2 weeks ago. That day I saw
Yeah.
one. But it was like 3 in the afternoon, and he says, da, 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 you know, going along. So I'm wondering if, I don't know.
Are you sure it was a coyote? No.
Oh, I know coyotes.
I trust you do.
But what can we do?
Not much. And the reason is because they're very territorial, and if you trap them, then just some other coyote will cover that area. Also, because of the weather, there's a lot more coyote sightings that are coming into areas that are more populated for food and water. So that drives them more into areas that are more populated. So having worked for a community that actually had a coyote trapping program, I can say that it was met with mixed results. I'm not even talking about the emotional aspect of it. I'm talking about the studies seem to indicate they're very territorial, and if one is eliminated, the others will move in that territory. So it's a lot of it's driven by just the need to find food and water.
They're really bold.
They are, and the thing that people have to realize is that, you know, they're very, very adept at easily jumping 6-foot walls, and it's not uncommon for a cat or a small dog to be taken by a coyote, so people should be more alert to that type of thing, because there's just more reports in areas, you know, we're not that close to foothills, but it doesn't surprise me to get them. They come down flood
They
control
come down the
channels.
flood,
and-
yeah,
They did,
the
yeah.
wash.
I was
yeah.
gonna say, like early I get up and go walking. I have seen them in the morning, but they've always been by the flood control area, coming down that area. Never during the day.
You know, we can, maybe in a future issue of Connect, we can put a little article in what people can do, but as a city, there's very little you can do other than just, you know, try to make residents aware of, you know, the risks that they are for their small pets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that was it.
Councilmember you.
I want to also take this opportunity to echo what my fellow council members' sentiment. I want to thank Mr. Penman for his leadership during this interim time, and really a great help to us and to staff, and also was instrumental in helping us with the recruitment process with our new city manager. So thank you very much, and good luck to you, and enjoy your vacation. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple items. One, as we heard earlier from Peter Choi, the Temple City Chamber of Commerce just celebrated their 90th anniversary, so congratulations again to them. As he said, there was an event this past Saturday, and I must say that my fellow council members, it was a Great Gatsby theme, and Councilmember Sternquist and Councilmember Viscar really got into the dress code, I should say, and they looked fantastic.
Thank you.
And so it was a good event, and I think enjoyed by all those who were there. And I know Jerry was there taking photos, and are they up yet on your website? So you want to check out the photos, but it was a good event. So congratulations to them. Also, we had one of our other groups in our city who do a lot, of course, and that is the Kiwanis Club, celebrated their 75th anniversary this past Tuesday, and they also had an event that was well attended, and I should say that our Congresswoman Judy Chu attended both events, and so that was very nice of her to attend both events, and two very good, long-standing institutions who certainly are a big part of our city. So again, congratulations to both of them. And lastly, I just again want to echo my fellow council members in thanking Don for your service. I have to tell you a real quick story. When Don first was hired, I don't know if you remember, we tried to, most of the council, all of the council members actually meet pretty regularly with our city manager, and we tried to schedule a meeting, and it was like, it never happened because of his schedule, my schedule. It got to the point where it was like, do you want to meet this guy or what? I think you were here a month before or 2 weeks at least before I even met you. But after that, it was a pleasure. I learned a great deal from you, so thank you in the short time. Obviously, your reputation precedes you. That's why we hired you as the interim, and you've done a great job. And sorry about the donuts. Maybe I can get them delivered to your house. I don't know.
Tell my wife on
Yeah.
Tuesday morning.
You don't tell her you have a donut, though, do you?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, that's right, because I don't tell my wife I have one
Are you
either.
guys-
Wait a minute, this is televised. Oh, well, there goes that. It is televised, so what can we do? All right, but thank you again, and hopefully you'll enjoy this retirement the second or third or fourth time around, I don't know. But, it's a testament to your abilities that I guess they keep calling you back, so thank you very much, and we are going to miss you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now turn to item 15, reimbursement of expenses. There are none. We now recess to the successor agency to the Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. So I'll call that to order. Roll call, please.
Agency Member Sternquist,
Present?
Agency Member Viscara,
Here.
Agency Member Yu,
Here.
Vice Chair Chavez,
Here.
Chairman Bloom is absent.
I move to excuse Chairman Bloom for cause.
Second.
Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Now move to item 3, consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussion. Is there anybody that would like to remove an item?
Nope.
Motion then?
Move it.
Second.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 4, unfinished business, none. Item 5, new business, none. Item 6, communications, none. Item 7, public comments. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this agenda? Seeing none, public comments is closed. Number 8, update from executive director and agency council, none. Matters from agency members, none. 10, closed session, none. And we are now in adjournment. And we will now move back to our regular agenda. And we will move to item 17, actions taken by city as successor agency to the Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency. Do we have anything on that? Nothing? Okay, so nothing on that item. We will now move to item 18, any additional public comments? Does anyone wish to make additional public comments? Mary raised her hand first, so we'll go with Mary. Come on up, Mary.
Mary Coqueco, Temple City residents. I don't know if you're going to be able to do anything about this, but I had complained about this, at least 3 years ago. Our store, Ralph's, you look like you're in a ghetto over there. It is filthy outside, the trash cans are over, the sidewalks are dirty, and the same thing where Kmart is. Where you go to where Applebee's is, everything's nice over there. I don't know what you can do. Behind 99-cent store, you need more trash cans. They're overflowing all the time. It looks bad. As far as Ralph's, for seniors that take the dial-a-ride, there is no place to sit inside if you have to wait an hour for a dial-a-ride, or even I don't know if you can do anything about that. I had spoken to the managers at least 4 or 5 times, different managers. They didn't even answer me. They just shrugged their shoulder and like they could care less. I go to Pavilion a lot. It's like going to a high-class place. It's clean outside. You don't have to worry. But Ralph's is horrible. You guys go there. There's always papers on the floor. It looks messy. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but it really looks bad. I've had people that come from other areas that visit me, and we've gone there a couple of times. They said, God, this looks terrible. I know it's private property, from what I understand, the parking lot. I don't know how much power you have for them, but if they want customers, like I say, you guys go there, so you know what I'm talking about. And they should provide a place where you can sit inside. I know they have problems there with
Recycling?
hanging out there, you know, these people. You go to Pavilion, they don't have that problem. They have security round the clock, night and day. I don't know who provides it, but we don't have that with Ralph's. I don't know who's supposed to pay for it. I don't know what the city can do about it, because it is, from what I understand, a private parking lot, but it looks bad. So I don't know, like I say, I don't know if you can do anything about it or not.
Okay, well, I know Mr. Penman has taken notes, and we'll look into that, and we'll see what staff can find out and see if we can get that taken care of, Mary. Okay, Jerry.
Good evening again. I'd also like to offer my thank you to Mr. Penman for his professionalism and bringing his expertise to our city and helping us during this time. And, you know, Mr. Penman, we're going to have Raymond Michael in the park tomorrow night, Elvis. So he would leave you with this. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's
Jerry
pretty nice, Jerry.
Can do the impersonation.
Okay. Mr. Mann, come on up.
Hi, William Mann, Temple City resident. Good evening, everybody. I actually wanted to share this with you earlier, but I just came late from a area leaders meeting for Neighborhood Watch. And so it goes without saying that Neighborhood Watch is probably one of our most underrated programs in the city in terms of the number of volunteers and area leaders we have helping out. And one of the things that one of the challenges that we were faced with, and we noticed this during National Night Out, as well as the several times that we have posted booths at Concert in the Park, was trying to reach out to a larger portion of the community, and specifically in our case, the Asian American community. Some of you may know that we get the weekly crime blotters that are emailed to anyone who's willing to sign up, and we've taken steps to translate those reports into Chinese. Another sort of a proud achievement that we've had is just trying to get the word out to as many people as possible, because that's one of the difficulties, is really spreading that word out to the residents. And so during our last Area 8 meeting, which was held last week over by Golden West, we had one of the reporters from Tsingtao actually express interest in covering our Neighborhood Watch program. And they actually came by, interviewed some of our residents, some of the volunteers from Neighborhood Watch, as well as Rick Adams from Temple Station. And they wrote a story about our Neighborhood Watch program in their paper. Now, at first I thought they were just going to put this into a small metro section, or, you know, hidden in some inside page where a lot of people might not be able to see it. But I have in my hand the front page of yesterday's Tsingtao. We're on the front page for Neighborhood Watch. It's a short article, but it's very poignant and straight to the point, and emphasizes the sort of how this program has grown and advanced over the last 3 years.
Is it the big one at the top? I can't read it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, it's in Chinese. I'm trying to find an English translation to share with our area leaders. But yeah, that's the big title in the front. But some of the main points that it does cover is the fact that over the past 3 years since the inception of this program, we've grown from just a handful of members to over 1,800 on our weekly email list. And so I think part of that is strongly tied to the amount of value that we put on how safe our city is. And I just want to take this time to encourage everybody, if you haven't signed up for the Neighborhood Watch email list, to do so. And please come to our area meetings that are held every month except on November and December. More information can be found on the city website. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Okay, then we will close public comments, and we are now going to move into our closed session item 19 on the calendar, so we will be a while.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I
Yes.
could just ask, there are 4 items that are listed. 3 of those were placeholders which are no longer necessary. So item B, C, and D, we will be canceling.
Okay.
We'll just be going back with regard to item A, conference with labor negotiator. That has to do with our employee organization, Temple City Employee Association. If there's any public comments with regard to that item, we can take them now. If not, we can recess.
Okay, do we have any public comments on that item, item 19A? Hearing none, public comments will be closed, and we will now move into closed session. Somebody will have to come back out and, okay. Your ticket's in there. I can't go in there, so your ticket. You know, my wife's taking her third French class. Oh, really? She's going to French. One way or another.
I always said, next time I go, we went on Saturday.
Well, you have to let me know how it is.
Yeah.
Is this the first time?
This is our second.
Our second?
We were there, we just went to Paris. And we, not just, and even after those 5 days we were there, we took a train down to New Orleans to see the It was incredible. And then we went to spend a day on Versailles. So we really had 3 days, so that wasn't enough. So we got to spend, actually, sometimes we could say, well, what are we going to do today? So.
Well, you're going 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks going to be down.
That'll give you a lot of time to tramp.
Yeah, so.
Very cool.
All right.
All right, we'll see you later. 1 hour. At the max. Hey, I'm not in there, so it'll cut it down a little bit.
We all do it.
All right, well, not too bad for getting back on the saddle, huh? All right. I'll, good practice for next year. Yeah, there you go. Okay, taking off, Chair? Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. I gotta bring some stuff up. Dodgers are winning 6-4. Yeah. Dodgers are up 6-4. Kathy. Dodgers are winning 6-4. Let's see if the Giants lost. Oh, Giants lost 2-0. Oh, no, it's delayed. Must be a rain delay. You know, right. No, no, that's disgusting. All right. Because you're the only ones that have liability or risk. Better be safe than sorry. We sent that to JP. I think they reviewed it. I thought they did. They should have. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. We approved it. I don't see why they wouldn't. Well, you know, the problem is, and I think it's a good ordinance, but the problem is if we adopt it, and then don't do it, then we could have some problems. I think from now on, probably just as a matter of course, it should be. Because you know, Cindy's always going to bring it up. That's the only thing she remembers from the conference is to do that.
I thought I was a step ahead because I gave it to the enforcement officers, the city prosecutor looked at it.
Well, like I said, these all attorneys are all, and that's why I wanted to put Eric on the spot. I said, well, look, if you're comfortable with it, I'm okay. But
We rewrote the ordinance after the already did it,
yeah, so, yeah, but see, as an attorney, he has to say, yeah, JPIA is our risk manager, so. Sorry about that.
My own concern is they have, I don't know if the same people that
When you, Bob May is our rep. Oh, Bob May retired?
Well, so we have
So who's our rep?
Well, we were going to the whole thing with the insurance companies.
Oh, yeah, well, no, they were.
No, we need to do this, and they didn't even have another permission. But it is.
Hey, do you think we have a chance of getting some money from, Antonovich? Is it Antonovich? $320,000, is that gonna cost us, or you guys correct?
That's a preliminary estimate, just the rubber surfacing is, it's a lot of, you know, the school. I had,
And it's only a quarter of a mile? No, half of it, half a mile?
I had Doug Rhodes do some preliminary estimates since he did a master plan. And his estimate was, well, first he was thinking either decompression barrels, asphalt site. I don't want that because we already have an asphalt site. So.
I like the soft stuff. It's gonna be a nice addition to the park if we can pull that off.
But you're talking probably 6 feet wide and over 2,500.
Do they allow dogs on those on their
I don't know if it's on the track, maybe, but I don't think in the park.
I wonder if we should allow it on the track or have them on the grass adjacent. I don't want dogs pooping and peeing on the track, right?
Oh, what's the difference between that and a concrete sidewalk?
Well, if they do it, they'll be abutted by grass, I would imagine.
I know, but I guess, I'm going back and forth on this, the grass is one thing, but see, in my mind.
See, our dog won't do that on a surface. She'll only go to the bathroom on grass or dirt. So I don't know, maybe they won't, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe most dogs won't, I don't know.
I think most of them will go on the grass.
If I commuted the right time, like I
But you probably also have more small kids that play in the grass than will play on that, that's all around.
Yeah, that's
So,
true, too.
I don't know what the right answer is on that.
I just hope these people clean up after themselves.
Me too. And,
A
you
lot
know,
of people
that's-
don't, you know.
You know, that's the,
You know, Jane carries one of those things with on her leash. Most responsible people do, but it would be nice to have them stationed.
my, you know, somebody mentioned it was just, John's homework just wants to do.
Oh, she has not done it.
You know, she's concerned that, you know, the dogs are gonna, so they do it right now, but we don't have, you know, I'd rather.
You don't have the ability to find them or do anything right now.
Exactly, so.
it counts the other,
My concern is,
three separate
like, one of the reasons we have a chance to maybe take all the bags, so it's, which is good.
Oh, they'll steal the bag.
They're the ones that
All right, I'm going home. I'm going. I got, city attorney, no, I don't have to, city attorney said I can leave, so I'm going. Why should I stick around? I'm gonna be there for an hour. Were you dying? You didn't die. No, I'm going home. I gotta get up early tomorrow. I gotta go downtown. All right. Hopefully you guys won't be here too long. No, they promised me only half an hour to now. Plus, there's only 3 of them in here. See, there's a 4th and I'm getting, I'm trying to get back on that here. They're supposed to, Eric's supposed to petition the, what do they call
should we go play on the internet now, that's
I'll
right.
get you a belt like the community preservation guys have, with your pepper spray and whatever you need.
And your badge.
There's always some lockers over here. Yeah, we can get you some.
Why do they have lockers?
That's the question I'm trying to get answered.
Do they actually have locks on the lockers?
No, it's all right there behind you. The bag.
Throw my shoes.
You're not gonna want it.
I'll leave 'em.
Not really.
Get your recliner back there.
If you see any coyotes, can you shoot them?
I was gonna tell you, yeah, we have to, we could.
So do we need to
Cool.
end the meeting?
They were protecting something, but I was to a house, the folks that actually had the home invasion robbery, you
Yeah.
know, they called me out when I was working overtime last weekend, I think it was, and they found a cat hid from the front yard,
Mangled?
Yeah. and there
We
was-
need to adjourn.
No, I don't, he's back there.
That would be a coyote, yeah.
Think we should end the meeting. We are not officially ended yet.
I know, I was just gonna give this to
What's
Okay.
this? Is that
you.
two?
The old iPad I report.
The old one?
Well, he said I had to give it back.
We have a quorum of the council, and we're
Yeah.
back.
I need to have it.
We're back in session.
Council met in closed session with regard to item 19A, the conference with labor negotiator on
Let me do
the
your
organization, Temple City Employees Association.
Oh.
They received a lengthy
This is all
presentation from the labor negotiating team and gave direction. There was no other reportable action on that item, and the other items, 19, B, C, and D, had previously been canceled, and did not discuss those items. That concludes my report, thank you.
Just wanted to make
Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, so
Yay.
we went back to the storage unit state. Okay, just exactly what would be.
Right, she said just everything, all the books.
Yeah. It's gone. There were some pictures I forgot to save in that got to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's adjourn?
Done deal.
There was no reportable action, but I re-announced that.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you for waiting for us.
You too?
Kind of weird to not be.
Yeah.
I gotta go home and chew the baby.
Hoshiaki?
Okay, I leave this with you. Thank you.
I see it all day long.
I wonder what she had to
Well, they
And then she
said
comes back.
things into congestive heart failure or cancer.
Yeah, but it should be one downward spiral if that were the case.
Well,
No.
that's what my sister said. Well, how could they think that if, who's gonna be hungry all day long?
No,
I mean,
no, no,
she
no,
ate.
back to the station and then my phone.
Well, she's always had